Imagine a world where we were still tethered to the ground, confined by the limits of land-based transportation. Now, prepare to witness the extraordinary story of a triumph that defied gravity, propelled humanity into the skies, and forever changed the course of transportation history. From wheels to wings, the Wright Flyer, a turning point in transportation history. The invention and pioneering flight of the Wright Flyer in 1903 marked a significant turning point in transportation history. This breakthrough not only revolutionized transportation, but also served as a pivotal moment that laid the foundation for the evolution of air travel. The invention of the airplane by the Wright brothers sparked global connectivity, spurred economic growth, and ultimately facilitated advancements in outer space exploration, shaping the trajectory of the modern aviation industry.
In the early 1500s, Leonardo da Vinci studied birds very closely as a way to learn more about flight. This was the only way to learn about flying because it had no other way of learning what flight was like before airplanes. Da Vinci published books about the birds' flight and how they flew. He would then proceed to make his own flying machine modeled after bird wings and would lay the foundation for early flight. This was a small stepping stone and major use of research for others during the time trying to accomplish flight. From there, people would use types of flying devices that were lighter than air. These would include hot air balloons, kites, and blimps. There were many other people around the world during the Renaissance time period who were also trying to figure out flight. None of them were able to figure out how to control these early devices. They were all at the mercy of the wind currents and weather. With the Industrial Revolution in the early 1800s pushing everything to be steel-made and coal-powered, the idea of flying was lost to the new, more powerful modes of transportation, but not forgotten. With the new usage of coal and heavy modes of transportation, like boats and trains, most countries started transporting their goods through railways and major ocean liner companies. But in the late 19th century, a German inventor named Otto Lilienthal flipped a switch that sparked mass interest in flying again with his famous Derwitzer glider. This was the point where aviation took off.
From an early age, the Wright brothers had been interested in flight.
So their father gave them in 1878 this small helicopter toy, and they apparently were just fascinated with it. So that's often pointed to as one of the moments, kind of that sparked their interest in aviation.
After their experiences with the toy helicopter as kids, the Wright brothers opened a bicycle shop. The engineering knowledge they had gained from the bicycle shop, combined with their interest in aviation, led to the beginning of the experimentation and building of their first flying machine.
Their bike business in Dayton, Ohio had allowed them to have a, comfortable life. They had money, they could spend time on a hobby, and it just became a hobby for them. Now, as they dug into it and started experimenting and started building things, they reached a point where it became we're going to make an airplane, we're going to do this.
The Wright brothers wanted to create something that could be controlled by the pilot and not the weather. One of their goals pursued by the Wright brothers was to create a powered aircraft that was also controllable. If they were not at the whim of unpredictable air currents, they could create an airplane that could go farther and faster than any other flying machine of their time. The building of the plane started in 1903. They built the frame of the airplane out of wood and canvas, with the covering being made out of muslin. The engine had to be lightweight and powerful enough to keep them off the ground. They needed an engineer to help them create an engine that could power the airplane but stay lightweight.
Charlie Taylor was a mechanic the Wrights hired in 1901 in their bicycle shop. He helped design the engine and basically almost did all the machine work to build it.
They moved to North Carolina in the fall of 1903, and by December the same year, the Wright Flyer was complete. The flying conditions were better in Kitty Hawk because it was much flatter there, which allowed them to glide longer. On December 17, 1903, amidst the sandy dunes of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, the Wright brothers flew their record-setting flight, propelling the aviation industry into flight for years to come.
The Wright Flyer has become a major stepping stone in aviation history because of its pioneering first flight. Shortly after the invention of the first airplane, many other inventors took it into their own hands to create airplanes of their own and further build upon the Wright brothers' ideas. Air transportation in general experienced massive growth and change during the 1910s and 20s with the need for air combat in World War I.
World War I kind of supercharges innovation of aircraft. Countries are spending a lot of money to try to develop better aircraft because they see aircraft as a way of kind of overcoming the stalemate in the trenches on the ground. And that really helps spur the use of aviation after the war.
Shortly after the First World War, commercial airlines started to take to the skies. It took some time for these early commercial airlines to gain momentum, but they eventually received government assistance in the form of contracts to transport mail. Their success was fueled by the abundance of mail they had to deliver, allowing them to increase their efficiency and profitability.
In the late 1930s, aviation started to become much safer and more widespread, making it a more popular mode of transportation. With the invention of the Boeing 247 and Douglas DC-3, the commercial aviation industry started booming. They were able to start carrying passengers with ease and comfort. The new wave of commercial airlines could not only carry passengers, but were exceptional at transporting goods and products. Companies around the world started exporting goods to other countries to further grow their businesses. Now, passengers and goods could be transported much faster than they could have ever gotten with a train or boat. This new way of transporting goods would spur economic growth and connect the world for years to come. The oncoming of World War II in the late 1930s and early 40s further introduced huge leaps in aviation technology. Wood and canvas were being replaced with metal, pressurized cabins were becoming the new normal, and more powerful engines were helping planes fly faster and higher.
Flying in the 1950s and 60s was also a major turning point in airline history because it revolutionized the experience of flying. Airliners in the 1960s were made to comfort and service the passengers.
Who ever heard of an airline that goes around the world twice a day, every day?
Makes the going great.
Who ever heard of an airline with 87 first-class entrees?
Makes the going great.
The airline is the world's most experienced airline. The airline that's going places like you've never gone before.
The Wright Flyer not only spurred advancements in aviation, but also served as a catalyst for space exploration in the 1950s and 60s. The aeronautical engineering practices pioneered by the Wright brothers, such as the use of wind tunnels, played a pivotal role in the space race, marking significant milestones in aviation technology. Notable achievements during the space race, such as the first successful orbital flight and the historic moon landing, forever altered the course of human history. After the space race during the 1970s and 80s, there were many new models of commercial airplanes being released. The Boeing 737 in the mid-1980s sported several engineering improvements, such as new engines and a new flight deck, shaping the way modern commercial airlines would look for years to come. If it were not for the Wright brothers' invention, the aviation industry would cease to exist. Global airlines today allow for 34 million flights a year, employ 87 million people, and produce $762 billion in revenue for the global economy. The global airline industry has greatly impacted the way we live and connect as a whole. Today, you can hop on an airplane and be anywhere in the world in less than 24 hours.
In 1903, the Wright brothers achieved the concept of flight that had been thought to be impossible for thousands of years. They developed the modern practice of aeronautical engineering and a whole new mode of transportation that would become a part of our everyday lives. This breakthrough not only revolutionized transportation, but also served as a pivotal moment that laid the foundation for the evolution of air travel. The invention of the airplane by the Wright brothers sparked global connectivity, spurred economic growth, and ultimately facilitated advancements in outer space exploration, shaping the trajectory of the modern aviation industry.
They say that no man has enough imagination to predict the flying of a generation hence.